One man, Napoleon Bonaparte, rose from nothing to nearly conquer the entire world. Kings feared him, armies fell before him, and Europe bowed to his genius. From the battlefields of Austerlitz to the icy nightmare of Russia, his name became legend. But how did he do it? How did he crush empires, outwit entire coalitions, and rewrite the rules of war, only to watch his empire crumble to dust? The story of Napoleon Bonaparte's conquest of Europe begins in the chaos of the French Revolution. France was in turmoil, with the monarchy overthrown and the country at war with nearly every major European power. Amid this chaos, a young Corsican artillery officer, Napoleon Bonaparte, emerged as a military prodigy. His early victories in Toulon, 1793, Italy, 1796 to 1797, and Egypt, 1798 to 1799, showcased his brilliance in strategy and tactics. In 1799, he orchestrated a coup d'état, overthrowing the weak Directory government and installing himself as first consul of France. At just 30 years old, he was already the most powerful man in France, but he had even greater ambitions, to dominate all of Europe. Napoleon wasted no time in solidifying his rule. In 1800, he led his army across the Alps in a daring campaign, surprising the Austrian forces in Italy. His victory at the Battle of Marengo re-established France's control over northern Italy, forcing Austria to sue for peace in 1801. This marked the beginning of Napoleon's military dominance in Europe. His strategy was simple but effective: lightning-fast movement, deception, and overwhelming force at critical moments. He had restructured the French army into a war machine that could strike hard and fast, crushing opponents before they could react. By 1804, Napoleon had crowned himself Emperor of France, signaling to the world that he was no ordinary ruler. His ambition alarmed the monarchs of Europe, leading to the formation of the Third Coalition, 1805, an alliance of Britain, Austria, Russia, and Sweden. Napoleon responded with a masterpiece of military strategy. In a matter of weeks, he outmaneuvered the Austrians, captured their main army at Ulm, and marched into Vienna unopposed. But his greatest triumph came at the Battle of Austerlitz, 1805, where he crushed a combined Russian-Austrian force, securing his place as the undisputed master of continental Europe. With most of Europe under his control, Napoleon attempted to defeat Britain economically by enforcing the continental system, a blockade designed to strangle British trade. However, this policy backfired, drawing Napoleon into unnecessary conflicts, especially in Spain and Portugal. The Peninsular War, 1808 to 1814, was a disaster. The Spanish and Portuguese, backed by British forces under the Duke of Wellington, used guerrilla warfare to bleed the French army. Napoleon was forced to divert resources, weakening his grip on Europe. By 1812, Napoleon controlled most of Europe, but he made a fatal error by invading Russia. He assembled the Grande Armée, the largest army in European history, and marched towards Moscow. The Russians, under Tsar Alexander I, refused to engage in direct battle, instead employing a scorched earth strategy, burning their own cities and retreating deeper into their vast empire. Napoleon won the costly Battle of Borodino, but when he reached Moscow, he found it in flames, abandoned by its people. Facing starvation in the harsh Russian winter, Napoleon was forced into a devastating retreat. Thousands of his men perished due to hunger, cold, and relentless Cossack attacks. Only a fraction of his army made it back to France. After the disastrous Russian campaign, Napoleon's enemies sensed weakness. In 1813, they formed the Sixth Coalition and defeated him at the massive Battle of Leipzig, also known as the Battle of Nations. Forced to retreat, Napoleon's once mighty empire collapsed. In 1814, the Allies captured Paris, and Napoleon abdicated, going into exile on the island of Elba. But the world hadn't seen the last of him. In 1815, Napoleon escaped from Elba, returning to France in what became known as the 100 Days. He regained power without firing a shot, as thousands of soldiers flocked back to his side. However, his enemies were ready. On June 18, 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo, the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army under Blücher crushed Napoleon's forces. It was his final defeat. This time, there was no escape. Napoleon was exiled to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic, where he spent the rest of his life writing his memoirs and reflecting on his legacy. He died in 1821, but his legend lived on. Napoleon was gone, but his impact on the world never faded. His military strategies are still studied in war academies across the globe. His Napoleonic Code shaped the legal systems of countless nations. His ambition, his genius, and his unstoppable drive made him one of the most legendary figures in history. Even in exile, he never accepted defeat. On the windswept island of St. Helena, Napoleon spent his final years rewriting history in his own words, crafting a legacy that would ensure he would never be forgotten. He once said, "Death is nothing, but to live defeated and inglorious is to die daily." He was a man who defied fate, built an empire from nothing, and nearly ruled the world. But in the end, even the greatest fall. Or do they? Because centuries later, his name still echoes through time. Napoleon Bonaparte, the man, the myth, the conqueror. Fire if you love epic history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Fire. Speech balloon, tell us, do you think Napoleon was a hero or a villain? Let's discuss in the comments. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story.